It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by.
Boylesports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boylesports, this is betting.
Hello everyone, a very good morning to you, or a very good afternoon, or a very good evening, or whatever time of the day or night you're watching this, whether it be first time, second time, or you're so engrossed by the information the 10th time. Welcome to the Champ.ie podcast, and time for something a little different. Instead of a detailed look ahead at the weekend, we have got on board the great bandwagon that will take us all the way to Gloucestershire, train strikes or no train strikes, in the middle of March, and look ahead this week to the 5 big championship races. Let me introduce the cast that we have assembled with the traditional Barry Doyle motto of every expense spared. The team is Barry Doyle, the founder of Champ.ie. He's the handsome one top left. Top right is the man who has all the answers. Sadly, he doesn't have all the questions. Ronan Groome. And I'm delighted to welcome as a special guest, Paudie Hassett, part of the Boylesports trading team. He'll update us on the market. He's got a nice shirt on. I wonder if he'll still have his shirt on, or did he lose it during the course of the Cheltenham Festival? And also a moment of silence for an absent friend. If anybody's seen anybody that admits his name is Thomas Coyle, we'd be very pleased to hear from him. So what we're going to do is go through the 5 big championship races: Champion Hurdle, Champion Chase, Stayers Hurdle, Ryanair and Gold Cup. And of course, we want your involvement. What we want you to do is to enter a championship 5-cast for a Boylesports free bet. How do you do it? Well, first and foremost, you subscribe. If you haven't done so, please click now. We'll pause when you do it. And then you put your 5-cast into the comments. And after the 18th of March, we will send the winner how to access his or her winning bet. And later in the programme, not only will we hear from the master trainer, JosephO'Brien, but we will also tell you about last week's 5-cast winner. And you got your hand to work. You should have gone before.
Mike, this is actually it's a trip to the Boylesports Irish Grand National. So accommodation, tickets, 2 tickets, and a voucher, £100 or euros.
I've never been. Maybe I should enter.
Voucher. So
great day at Ferry House.
So all the 5-cast entries, Mike, all the entries for the next 3 weeks, all the 5-cast entries. Next week, we're going to look at novices. The week after, we're going to look at handicaps. All the entries, obviously, to qualify, you need 2 winners or more. So 5-cast galore down below, and obviously subscribe.
I don't know about handicaps. I'm looking at 4 of them, I think. Anyway, let's go straight in and talk about day 1. Talk about the Champion Hurdle. And of course, it's so bizarre that the realistic prospect of the last 3 Champion Hurdle winners not being in the race, but being in the race after the Mayor's Hurdle, which means that most people now look upon this as a straight fight between Constitution Hill and State Star, Britain versus Ireland, one of the great Cheltenham showdowns. Paudie, let's start with you. Is that how the market is now seriously looking at this?
Yeah, it's very much a 2-horse race in terms of the market. I don't think it's going to be much of a showdown myself. I'd say that Constitution Hill will destroy State Man. He wouldn't be fit to see him, I think. State Man's been beating the same horses the whole time here in Ireland, beating Vauban. Even the last day in Leopardstown, I mean, Zana here and Pied Piper weren't too far behind him. Constitution Hill would just destroy them, like he'd be in a different league. I think State Man will just be giving him a lead, basically. It should be very straightforward.
An Irishman tipping an English winner. Shock, horror. Is he right, Ronan?
Oh, he's muted himself.
He's lost for words. It's unusual for him. Press your button, mate. There we go.
I think it's a pretty simple start for us here, and we don't need to spend much time on the race. Like, I completely agree with Paudie. I think State Man's been beaten the same horses 2-3 lengths all season. Like, he's rock solid State Man. He'd probably win most champion hurdles, but we just running against a freak here. Like, Constitution Hill, like his most impressive performance was at Cheltenham last year in the Supreme. Like, I don't think he's even topped that this season. So I think we could see a monster performance here if State Man goes fast enough, firm in front. It probably is an each way State Man. Like, you could look at him for like an each way doubles or trebles through the festival. Like, it'd be hard to knock him out the tree. Like, it'd take something crazy. Like, it's probably going to be a small field, but yeah, it's not a betting proposition for me. Constitution Hill, but I think he'll win easily.
And the thing also, Barry, is if we get 8 and we go then each way 3 places, and you can find the right third horse, even if you do think it's a match, there's going to be some decent each way prices about. I know you like your old each ways. This.
Yeah, no, not in this one. I'd say you probably have 5 or 6 runners, if even, in this. And I think Paudie's writing State Man. It'll be pretty straightforward. He'll go out in front. Constitution Hill will probably pick it up 2 out and go on and win. I think it's full house for Constitution Hill. As Ronan said, we probably don't need to spend much time on it. There will be a couple of stats thrown out and jotted down a couple. And not obviously stats are there to be broken, but there'll be lots of people on the circuit saying, you know, obviously Constitution Hill and the double hasn't been done with the Supreme. So Supreme novice hurdle winners don't. Well, not too many of them went down. I think it was 1971 the last time. Throw that out the window. He'll break that stat. Nico could be his first winner in the champion hurdle as well. So I think it'll be straightforward. State Man, though, in any other year would just be, you know, a very strong favourite. And it's great we have that race. It is going to be somewhat of a race. Before Christmas, it wasn't looking likely, but State Man, in fairness, he has progressed. In any other year, he'd be a worthy favourite, but it's just unlucky. I think this season to run to.
I don't think he would be.
You don't think so?
No. Well, I mean, if Constitution Hill isn't running, surely then Epatante, Honeysuckle, couple of these run as well. You probably actually have a better race if Constitution Hill wasn't running. You know, it'd probably be more competitive.
And I think one thing we also need to make sure is we look this year what Willie Mullins wins a handicap with. Think back to Sedation, started at won a handicap and then went back and did decent things. And of course, State Man, a winner of the handicap a year ago. So at least the tried and trusted route. But State Man at least has experience around Cheltenham, and that's quite significant as well. At which point I would like to bring in Thomas Coyle, but as you can see, he's just left us a message. So we are Constitution Hill unanimous?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I presume many of you are. Well, that's your first leg of your 5 cast. And then we move on to Wednesday. And he's been crying ever since I saw him after what happened at the last Cheltenham meeting. His beloved Energemin getting well stuffed in the Clarence House. Back to defend his title in the Queen Mother. And, of course, it was the full house for Willie a year ago. It was the one that had got away. Are you in a forgiving mood, or is your wallet in a forgiving mood, Mr. Doyle?
I'd say you could overcomplicate it, Mike. I think he'll win again. You know, I think the last day, obviously, probably the pace of the race early in the contest. I think Editor D'Oudaries had his own way, you know, out in front. He was able to control the race, and Eric being quite keen early in the race. I'd say he wasn't absolutely fully wound up either. I think connections are pretty bullish that, you know, he's going to come forward a lot for it. In terms of where he's going to win the race, look, I think Gentleman to me and Editor D'Oudaries, the pace angle in here is going to be critical. It could turn into a bit of a burn up front. I don't necessarily think Energemin has to make the running, but I think coming to, I suppose, between 4 and 3 out, I'd like to see him, you know, really, you know, using his stride. I think that's where he's going to win the race. He's putting the others under pressure at a key point in the race. Edward Stone will obviously track them in behind. He's always vulnerable to, you know, a mistake. Obviously, we saw him coming down on his penultimate start. I think the race will set up nice for Energemin. I don't think he has to make it like lots of people do. I'd like to see him on the outside as well, because as Ronan suggested on the Monday show, he does have a slight tendency to shift slightly right. So, you know, I just think it'd be easy for him if he wants to track the leaders on the outside. I think you could overcomplicate this. I think he's the best horse in the race on ratings and in general. And I think he's a monster, to be honest, and I think he'll win it again.
Do you buy all this white fence stuff, Paudie? Or do you just think it's a tad of the blarney after a late night after a late night in the Lord Bagnall?
I'd be worried after his last run. You couldn't but be worried. I wouldn't be so worried. I didn't think it was his the way he went through the race was any problem, but I definitely worry about his jumping. Yeah, he was jumping right and jumping into the back of horses, but he was every time he was long of the fence, he really went right. Like he was, which would be a big worry. Like if he jumped him off on the outside, he could end up anywhere. Like the way he jumped the last day. Like I think like it's hard to have a bet in it, like, because the rags look to have absolutely no chance. Then that leaves you Editor, the Geet, Gentle to Me. You couldn't back either of them because both of them are keen and wanted their own way in front. You could see them taking each other on. Like if you asked me after the Arkle last year or at the start of the year, would you back Edwardstone in the Champ.ie Chase? I tell you were no chance, absolutely a million. But the way things are going now, you kind of be starting to lean towards Edwardstone. He's going to be ridden the way he's ridden, which might suit in this race, and he's probably the one that's hardest to knock, if you know what I mean. But if Energy Mean comes and does everything right and doesn't jump to the right, and he's the best horse in the race, I would say. But I'd be very worried about the way he jumped the last day.
Well, you and I have had to suffer Doyle for months on this, Ronan. Is he going to be smiling like the proverbial Cheshire cat, or will something else get the cream here?
No, I don't think he will, Mike. To be honest, I definitely have concerns over Energy over the last run. I think there's huge concerns there. The way he jumped right, as Paudie said, jumped into the back of horses and stuff. And I don't think it's as simple as people saying, "Oh, look, just go and make the running with him next time." I think it's not even tactically, the race isn't set up for him in that way this year. As I said last year, like that race completely fell apart. Like Shishkin obviously pulling up and Shakan falling, and he's been able to get away with jumping right there and coming wide into the bend. And we've beaten Funambul Savola and Envoy Allen in the end. Like it was just a terrible race. Like Editor Jeet, I think has to have a chance. It's probably the one that's underrated. Like a lot happened in that Clarence House. There was a lot to unpack from it, but I think that he was probably a bit underrated with everything else happening in behind with Energy Mean and things. Like, you think Edwardstone, everyone made the big case that he came up to him and he was tracking Energy Mean all the way, and then Tom Cannon realised he's not going to win, and then he had to really use all his diesel to get up to Editor Jeet, and there wasn't much made of the way that Editor Jeet actually picked up and went on again. Like, he was probably idling in front, so it's a fair effort from him. Like, if you go back to his Kempton run, he beat Nube Negra 13 lengths easily, probably underrated again because Edwardstone fell in that race. And, back and forth, Funambul Savola was beaten 36 lengths. Like, Barry likes to hold up that Energy Mean form with Funambul Savola. He's beaten 36 lengths there by Editor G. I think he's the coming horse, really. And out of all the prices there at the moment, 6-1 about him is possibly just underrating him a little bit. Edwardstone, I do obviously respect. Arkle winners obviously a fantastic record in the race. I think he's kind of surprised everyone this season, and the race will set up well for him the way he cruises in behind. So I think he is. I'd have him probably slight favourite over Energy Mean now. And I think it's a lot of hype around Energy Mean.
Well, Ronan, Editor to G at 5-1 is probably one of the worst prices I've seen for the entire meeting. And I'm going to say something to you as well on it. He's about what? 12. He's about what? £12 to find. Is it with Energy Mean? It's 166. He actually has £10 to find.
Down.
You say he has £12 to find. Energy Mean has to find 5 or 6 lengths with him.
And don't you worry, he will find it. There's no way Editor the Jeep won't get his own way like the last day. Not a hope in hell. If there's too much pace in this particular race, it's not going to be the same scenario whatsoever. It's just not.
Okay.
A spokesman for the Energy Mean fan club added. We will see. That is day 2. And that's now time to make your mind up about the second leg of your 5-cast.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
The lads will give you their 5 casts at the end of all this, and we will also touch on this weekend's racing. But now let's move on to day 3. This is the double header day. We'll talk about the Ryanair Chase shortly, but we have the Stayers, and it's a race where an awful lot of horses at the moment are set to take their chance. Could be, we've been talking about small fields for the first 2. Paudie, could be a big field this time, and it's almost a question of name that winner in 1. First of all, just tell us what the market looks like and where has the recent moves been in this.
Obviously, Allaho gone out of the race now, throws it wide open.
No, we're talking Stayers Hurdle.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were doing. Sorry, you threw me.
Ryanair will follow.
Asher, the Blazing Cal obviously winning at the weekend. Big move for him there, and Tihupu obviously very impressive with Gorn. So it's very much built around the front end of the market here now. Home by the lead, Tihupu, Blazing Cal, all the money for those 3. Obviously, Flooring Porter, question marks about whether he'll get there. So he's been easy to back. But yeah, very much front 3 in the bet.
And we'll hear from Joseph shortly. Where's your shilling then? If I give you a shilling, where would you put it here?
Oh,
see, I'm a generous man.
I'd struggle to have a bet in it. To be honest with you, Blazing Cal, I think you have to worry then that a bounce factor. Also, I think it's a big negative that he has the young fella riding at claiming 5. He won't be able to claim in the race. And to me, that's a bad starting point. You're £5 behind him at the start. I don't care if he knows the horse or doesn't know the horse. To me, that's a negative. Tihupu, you'd have to be ground concerns if the ground came up quick. He looks very, very much ground dependent. Home by the Lee's probably been winning poorish races. So they're not bomb proof, any of the front 3, to be honest with you. So as a layer, you'd be liking the look of this race. You'd be definitely kicking on. I think Flooring Porter, if he got back to his best, and if the vibes are good around him, I think he's probably the value in the race. He's probably too big at around 10-1, and maybe something like, it wouldn't completely shock me if Paisley Park ran a big race in it.
Thing too, of course, is, to me, Danny Mullins is one of the great front-running riders around, and he and Flooring Porter have been a marriage made in heaven. Speaking of marriage, I know it's Ronan. What are we going to do here?
He doesn't believe. Go on.
This is going to be Irish, isn't it, Ronan?
Yeah, I guess so. If you look at the market, it's the top 3 there. Home by the Lee as well. Like Blazing Cal. Like I tend to agree with Paudie. Like with Philip Burns riding the horse. Like it's illogical, I suppose, to leave the £5 claimer up. For all that, no, be fair to him, he gave him a fine ride at Navan, and he's given a few nice rides recently, Philip, and he's definitely a talent upcoming. But putting a £5 claimer on a horse in a Grade 1, it's just completely illogical, I guess. Tihupu, I just never really taken to him. I'm not sure, does he completely stay the 3 miles? Like that race down at Gowan was very slowly run, and he just probably speeded away from him at the end. Like a really well run 3 miles, I still have a question mark about him. Home by the Lee, like he's probably priced up as he was now. He seemed to be a bit underrated through the season, but he's a 5-1 chance there now. 6th in the race last year, definitely has improved, so we'll definitely be thereabouts. If Marie's Rock goes here, I'd give her a chance. I'm not sure is that completely confirmed yet. And to be honest, like Classical Dream was the horse I kind of liked, but I see he's 25-1 on the machine now, which wouldn't augur well for whether he's going to show up or not. If he did show up, he'd definitely be a bet at anything around 8-1, 9-1, that sort of price.
Another front runner.
He doesn't need to make the running, but he's very good, fresh, and kind of ruined his chance last year by running and going. I think Willie referred to that. Like if he showed up, definitely he'd be my play here. But I of all the outsiders as well, like and people think it's mad. Paisley Park, I think, can definitely run well. Like just right off the run the last day, it was a slowly run race. It was never going to suit him. He needs a real test these days, and he'd probably get it here. And I could see him running well. I could definitely see him running into a place. So he'd probably be a big price on the day. Wouldn't put anyone off that.
And the one thing we do need, and you've normally got one of these, have you got crystal balls anywhere nearby? The reason I say that, Barry, is clearly, to me, this is a race which a lot could depend as to what ground we get at Cheltenham on the day.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. I was just about to say it. Like, obviously, soft ground to Upu. Blazing Cal has, I suppose, decent form and a bit of better ground. Interesting. Never even thought of the angle, I suppose, the Paudie, just you mentioned about, Philip Burns and the £5. Interesting. Didn't even cross my mind, actually, when looking at the race.
But of course, the old man did when it was Solwit, so...
Charles absolutely.
Paul Carberry.
Absolutely. But I think
Blazing... Davey Russell, wasn't it?
No, it was Carberry.
Oh, was it?
Carberry won the stairs hurling him, yeah.
Carberry, arse in the air. Blazing Cal, he obviously is looking more the complete package, isn't he? Obviously, we have only seen him once this season, but anyone who went 7-1, bigger, he was floating around that sort of price prior. Congratulations, that's a great price. 9-4, as Paudie said, it probably is reasons to take him on. To UP, the same with the ground. Home by the Lee, I completely agree. I couldn't have him winning it, although we will hear from Joseph. He gives it as his best chance at the meeting. For me, I think non-runner, no bet, Marie's Rock 9-2. She has a right chance in this, I think. I was really impressed what she done. The Rel Keel, obviously, she's 2-time a course winner. She's by Milan. She's won on good and soft ground. Ground is not going to be an issue to her. She's versatile that way. Getting to £7, she's a massive player. Puts her in around 1.6. Well, getting £7, she's going to be banging the picture if she runs here. Obviously, she's not proven over 3 miles. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Looking at her breeding, looking at the way she hit the line in the Rail Keel, I think she's a massive player in here. Non-runner, no bet. That's the value for me at 9-2. Looking further down, Paudie's mentioned Flooring Porter. Will he get his own way in front? There doesn't appear to be a massive amount of pace, so he could be in the picture again if rocking up in that same type of form. So they'd certainly be looking at more Marie's Rock and Flooring Porter, certainly at the prices. She's settling better. She's won her last 4, and I think she's still on the improve. She looks well, doesn't she, in the stable tours, Marie's Rock?
Well, there is the Stayers hurdle. And as I said, a few unknowns, a few of what may or may not turn up, but definitely turning up, provided he gets there in time, is going to be Home by the Lee for Joseph O'Brien. JJ Slevin, his cousin, set to take the ride. One of the improvers this season. Delighted to welcome to Champ.ie Joseph O'Brien, the horse's trainer. And he has been exchanging words, shall we say, with Barry.
Delighted to be joined by Joseph O'Brien on the Champ.ie podcast, of course, episode number 30 of the season as we gear up towards Cheltenham. Joseph, big weekend for yourself. Of course, Fakir D'Oudaries entered once again at Ascot. How is he? Of course, a 4-time Grade 1 winner.
Yeah, he's in good form, Barry, and he obviously won the race last year, and we're looking forward to taking another swing at it this year.
Super. Looks a cracking race, of course, with Shishkin in there, Pictory amongst others. And I suppose real race to look forward to once again.
Absolutely, yeah. It's probably a deeper race than what it was last year. Very different ground conditions. But yeah, we're looking forward to going there with our guy, and we think he's in good nick, and hopefully he gives them a run for their money.
I suppose lots was said after his most recent start. Obviously, Hot and Colours was coming there, travelling quite well into the race. But Fakir D'Oudaries, would you say that's probably his biggest strength now? I mean, he really stayed on to the line. Were you impressed?
Yeah, he stayed on well. JJ felt that, it was still all to play for. He hit the line strongly. It did look as though Hot and Colours was going well at the time, but you have to jump the fences, and, we're very pleased to win a good race with our guy.
And fitness-wise, do you reckon he's come on again from the last day?
Yeah, I do. He's in real good nick. He's fitting well, and he goes here in very good condition.
Super. And of course, the Ryanair Chase blown wide open. Could Fakir D'Oudaries' name be on the Ryanair this season, do you think, if all goes well on Saturday?
Yeah, I think we won't consider that until closer to the time. The Ascot race has been the plan, and we'll see. We train him up to Cheltenham, and JP and Frank then will decide whether he goes to the Ryanair or whether he waits for entry again. So yeah, that's something that we'll just push that down the road for a little while.
Super. Banbridge must come on to Banbridge, of course. Twice a Cheltenham winner of the Martin Pipe last season. he must have been absolutely delighted with his run staying on well to the line in the Arkle, the Irish Arkle.
Yeah, it was a great run. What looked an extremely hot race. He hit the line strongly, and he looked as though he'd enjoy going back up and trip. And we're looking forward to the spring festivals with him.
Yeah, obviously the Turners was mentioned. He ran into Mighty Potter at Fairyhouse. That was on soft ground. Do you think on better grounds he could bridge that deficit?
Yeah, well, listen, I don't know about bridge the deficit, but I certainly think we'll be a better horse on better ground, and it'll be interesting to see how much closer we can get to him. Hopefully, a fair bit. It looks like it's likely they'll both meet in that race, and it should be a fantastic race again.
Super. And just looking, I suppose, obviously he was out early, Joseph. He was out, I think his first race was on the 1st of October. Good to yielding ground, jumped beautifully at Cheltenham. I suppose training a horse like him, who's out early, did you have to, I suppose, back off him for a little while in the winter period? Or I suppose between...
Yeah, he had a little break after Fairyhouse. He missed Christmas, and we aimed straight for February. So yeah, he's had a little freshen up, and we think that hopefully the spring will be when he's shining or at his best.
And I suppose is that always what you've taught us, was moving up from 2 miles to 2.5? That'd be more his trip.
Yeah, well, we thought I think he's still perfectly capable of performing well at 2 miles. We saw it at the last day at Leopardstown, and we saw it in Cheltenham earlier in the year. But potentially he'll be a shade better when he goes further.
Super. Home by the Lee. I mean, he's an absolutely massive improver. I'm sure he'll be very popular down in County Cork for the Cheltenham Festival with a name like that. Has he surprised you how much he's improved this season, Joseph? He's been a real improver.
Yeah, but I suppose he was a good horse last year. He was only beaten 5 lengths in the World Hurl last year, and we'll it looks as though he stepped up this year, and he goes there with a live chance in a race that's after hotting up in the last 6 weeks.
What would you say is his biggest asset?
Well, I suppose stamina. He stays well, and he saves energy through the race as well, which is important when you're going those extreme distances, especially as you go up in class. So he's the right type of horse for the job, and we're looking forward to hopefully we get there in good shape, and we're looking forward to taking them on.
A comfort zone, of course, has been to the UK a couple of times this season. And he's been flying the flag in terms of your juveniles this season. 2 Grade 2 wins. We impressed with how well he battled. He really battled hard to beat Scriptwriter, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. You'd have to be impressed with both of his graded wins, as well as his maiden, which has worked out very strongly. And he ran very well in Fairyhouse too, only a week after he won his maiden. So he's a horse that has done nothing wrong, and he goes to try and put a live each way chance.
Super. Dawn Rising, Saint Silks, of course, owned by JP also, was a Grade 3 winner, of course, at Navan, beat American Mike, and was very exciting. Obviously, was a winner at Listowel as well on better ground, and ran an absolute cracker, Joseph, in Grade 1 company, of course, the Lauders and Ace.
He did, yeah. He's likely running the Albert Bartlett. He's shaped as though he'll enjoy going up in distance, and he goes there with, I'd say, an outside chance.
Moving on, just a couple of your other juveniles, Joseph, before we do move on. Nosray Common Practice, how are they? And I suppose, is the plan Cheltenham with those?
Well, they have entries in the Fed Winter, and we'll see what's getting in and all that kind of stuff closer to the time. But they have options there, and they have options at home as well.
Looking at the handicaps, obviously, is there anything, I suppose, that you're particularly looking forward to? We've mentioned a couple there, but anything for...
Yeah, Bustleton will probably stay at home. San Salvador potentially will go for the Coral, and we have a few bits and pieces there as well. But I think we're better, stronger represented in the graded races.
Super, Joseph. Listen, absolute pleasure. Wish you the best for the spring festivals. Before we let you go, I suppose from your perspective, horse you're most looking forward to running at the Cheltenham Festival.
I think Home by the Lee probably is one. He's marked himself down as obviously a Grade 1 winner this year, and he'll go for stairs with a real life chance.
Super, Joseph. Finally, last question. Switching obviously attentions to the flat. Obviously it's a couple of months away, but any particular horse that we, I suppose, Champ.ie listeners should be maybe keeping an eye on with a view to the flat campaign 2023.
I suppose Al Rifa, being the national stakes winner from last year, is an obvious one, and Philly Call above the curve is she won the Allery in France last year. There too to keep an eye on.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
So from the Stayers to the Ryanair Chase, and of course there's still a doubt about one or two as to who's going to go where. The likes of conflated Mr. O'Leary saying he wanted to get his money back. Sponsors the Ryanair, of course. Gordon said he goes to the Gold Cup. But this was probably seismic this week, Paudie, was it not? What the market did in the aftermath of Allaho, because I still regard Alamo's demolition job 2 years ago, Allaho, when he absolutely took the field to the cleaners, as one of the great Cheltenham jumping exhibitions.
It was a non-event with Allaho in the race, but it's thrown it wide open now. Any amount of horses could win it now, so it looks like it could be a real good bet in heat.
Give us an idea as to who now sort of sits at the top of the market, which is probably not a place you want to be.
Shishkin, Fakir D'Oudaries, Fury Road, Blue Lord, Hot on Colours. Them five would be the front five in the betting.
So what happens at Ascot on Saturday is going to be crucial here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if Shishkin bombs out Saturday, he's gone. Fakir D'Oudaries, then obviously he's probably the solid horse at the moment. If you were to have a bet, if he goes and wins in Ascot, you could see him shortening up. I don't think he'll get too short because there is plenty of opposition. So I could see him maybe getting into around a 5-2 chance, but not much shorter, I'd say. It's a good race. It's plenty chances in it. Kind of race you could maybe find one in.
A Venetia, possibly if the ground came up right.
Possibly. I don't know. I was just looking there. I see Janadil is entered in Saturday in Gorham Park, second in the race last year. It went off 12-1 last year with Allaho in the race, and he's 25-1 this year. So I mean, non-runner, no bet. You're backing it at 25-1, and if he doesn't rock up, you're getting your money back. And if he goes and runs well Saturday, you could be on a real runner. I wouldn't mind chancing maybe something at that price.
Barry?
Yeah, that's the each way one, isn't it? Fascinating. Obviously, we haven't seen him this season, but if there is going to be a shake-up this weekend, maybe he's a horse that could, you could see him at a single figure price, before the end of the weekend. As Paudie said, Shishkin, he's the one on ratings. Obviously, if he comes back to anything near his best, 2.5 miles, you'd have to think is really going to suit him. And the wind up, he's had a wind operation since we last seen him. If he comes back to anything near his best, he's certainly the one to be looking at here. Interesting stat: the last 9 winners were all French bred. So Ronan was talking about the angle of the stairs coming back in trip. Have a good record in this. Obviously it's on the new course as well. Can be a stamina test. Blue Lord, I think if the ground came up soft, he'd be the one I certainly would be siding with. A real improver this season. I think Connections, Daryl Jacob spoke about how much the horse, I suppose, has physically grown up. He was still a shell last season. I fancied him for the Arkle. Ran a respectable race, in fairness. He's ran 2 good races around the course. Blue Lord, obviously disappointing, Mike, at the Dublin Racing Festival. Probably had a hard race. I think that's what they've said afterwards at Christmas. Stepping up to 2.5 miles, it's really going to suit him. Obviously, the Ryanair Chase on heavy ground. He was quite keen in the race, held up. I'd like to see him maybe ridden, a little bit more forward in the Ryanair. I give him a big chance. But Janadil, certainly each way. If you're going to play it now, because he could be single figures after the weekend.
Okay, let's move on to the big one, as they call it, namely the Gold Cup. And the first question, obviously, is all about last year's winner, A Plus Tard. A fantastic race a year ago off the back of a monster performance when winning at Haydock. But long time no see, as they said about the man who was waiting to become a bishop. Ronan, have first innings on this one. Our absent friend is clearly what sort of state he's in when he turns up is key, because it'd be a terrific performance by the De Bromhead team if after this great big long absence, Appletard can do it again.
Yeah, it'll need a monstrous training performance, I suppose, Mike. Like, if he can run to the standard he ran last year, like, he's the one to beat here. But that's a big if, and he's got to have to break all sorts of trends to emerge and win here. I think. Look, he's 8-1. I think that's fair enough. I thought I put him up earlier in the season before he was due to run at Christmas, and then he didn't run, which it wasn't ideal. He is what he is. I guess it's a chancy kind of proposition, I suppose. Look, Gallup on the Champ, but he's a different horse this year. He's settled. He's a much different horse than he was last year when he was an all action kind of power packed horse. I thought he was good at Christmas. I have to say, he settled really well, and when the race needed to be won, he went away and won it well. Now, it was a bit slowly run, I suppose, so probably might have suited him, his speed in that case, and you do have to have question marks over whether he stays or not. But I think he's solid enough at the top of the market. I have to say, like, on pure ability, he's definitely the one to beat here. Statler, I give a chance to. He definitely wants a bit more of a test than he got at Leopardstown, and thought he ran well in the circumstances there. He needed to go faster. He needed it to be more of a stamina test, and he still ran on. Conflated, I think, is if he does run here, Gordon gets his way. I think he's a player as well. For a bet, I can't really, like, Brave Man's Game. Like the King George winners generally have a bad record here. Kempton horses. I think Gallup on the Champ is definitely the most likely winner. He wouldn't be.
And there's also Protector at it, course.
Yeah, I mean, like that. You're taking Dan Skelton's word there. That's of what happened the last day. You really need him to be right with that. That he told he was 80% fit, and not ideal for me, to be honest with you. I think that's a bit of wishful thinking maybe on his part. I'm not sure if he's good enough. Look, I can't really get away from Gallup and the Champ, but without wanting to tip him at 6-4 or 11 or whatever price he is now, 11-8. I think it's probably on the short side, so I'll leave it from a betting point of view. But Gallup and the Champ would be gun to head kind of vote.
I'll save you till last on this one, Paudie. Barry, are we happy about the trip situation? Did that race at the Dublin Racing Festival answer the question?
He looks a transformed character. He looks a completely different horse this year. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. I've always actually really liked the horse. At the price he is at the moment, I just think it's a little bit skimpy. I wouldn't be willing to plough in now at 11-8. I think it is a Gold Cup. There's plenty in here. Obviously, when you see a Plutard, how impressive he was as runs, and it's going to be a monster training performance for him. Noble Yates, if he's on the premises, absolute model to place, will come home very, very strongly. Brave Man's Game, 8-1 for a King George winner. A High Seigneur, Cotswolds Chase winners don't have a decent record in it, but he is a massive engine. Protectorate, 12-1. I think there's only been 2 winners in recent years that have been, 10-1 or bigger. That was a stat I saw. No 10-year-old has won the race. Statler's the one for me. I did mention him when I was listing down through them, but he's a horse I've actually backed at a much bigger price. Loved what he done last season in the National Hunt Chase. I think the new course, 3 Mile 2, right up his alley. He's 8 lengths to find with Gallup and the Champ. What I like about Statler is I think in a truer run race, an end-to-end gallop in a Gold Cup, the stronger the pace, the better his chance. He's going to stay. He's going to love the trip. He's only had 5 starts over fences. There could be a lot more to come from him. They were mad keen on him last season. Going into the National Hunt Chase, he jumps beautifully. He's a really straightforward horse on ratings, and I suppose on recent form. He does have something to find here. At 7-1, I can't see how he's out of the picture in a strong run Gold Cup, and he'd be my bet each way still at the prices. That's Statler. And
Paudie, I suppose the other question about Statler is, who rides? Patrick, Danny? It's an interesting one.
How do you answer?
It'd be fantastic for Patrick to have as a winner Gold Cup, of course, following the footsteps of Sam Whaley-Cohen. Is this really a one-horse market?
No, it's not a one-horse market. There's plenty of others being supported. The favourites would be the Lady Meeting, I'd say. He's a shocking price. desperate. Like, I think you'd be off your head backing him at that price. So many unknowns, so easy to pick holes in his form. I wouldn't back him at 4-1.
What would you back then?
I think Noble Yates is the solid horse. He looks a different horse this year. He's doing a lot more professional the way he races. Even the first day out in Wexford, like he looked a different horse. He didn't beat much, but just the way he travelled and jumped. Then he goes over, wins well, and then he's a little sighter around Cheltenham the last day. Like, I don't think he was too hard on him the last day in Cheltenham. I'd say they were only just getting a look at the place. I think it was master stroke from Emmett Mullins, and he's a master trainer, like, there's no doubt about it. And I wouldn't swap Noble Yates for anything, because he will definitely stay. There's no question marks about him. If the ground came up soft and it came to a slog, I'd be having him. He'd be a very, very strong bet in that circumstances. But I could
Just
see
Paudie, if he were on one in front and he was 3 lengths, if nobody else was 3 lengths in behind coming to the last, you'd be fair frightened now.
Oh, you're done. There's no doubt. Like, he just he'd stay all day. Like, you know, there's no.
He stays with the mother-in-law, doesn't he? I mean, he's.
He does. Sure, even in the Grand National last year, like, he jumped the last, made a mistake, looked like he get beat. Then he's pricking his 2 ears going to the line. Like, it's like you wouldn't know what was in the tank. Like, I'd say, I wouldn't. I couldn't see him being out of the frame. I could see the argument for Statler. I don't think it was a true run race in Leopardstown the last day. It's half the reason why you'd be against Gallop and the Champ. Like, they went no Gallop. Like, I mean, what's the horse at Gigginstown led him to the last, and sure, he doesn't stay either. Like, he would even, you know, I say at a massive price, maybe Capodanno. He's in at the weekend. He's in at the weekend in Gorn. If he's about 50-1, I could see him running well if he ran well at the weekend. Again, one of them. If he ran well at the weekend, he wouldn't be 50-1 anyway.
Okay, well, it's time for you guys to nail your colours to the mast here. The 5 cast. Now, if you haven't done so, please subscribe, and then you can enter the competition courtesy of the race sponsors, Boylesports, and it means that you can win a trip to the Boylesports Irish Grand National at Fairyhouse on Easter Monday, and you get a free bet as well, and you will get very well looked after, believe you me. Now, you can either like or dislike these selections. Let's go around the 3 wise men. Tommy Cole sent me his selections, but unfortunately, it's just a blank sheet of paper. No change there then. Let's start with you, Barry. And then what we'll do is we'll do them race by race, go around the table race by race. So, first of all, Champion Hurdle, Barry.
Constitution Hill.
Ronan?
Yeah, Constitution Hill.
Paudie?
Constitution Hill.
Right, that's day 1 dealt with. Day 2, Queen Mother, Champion Chase. Barry, Energimine Doyle.
Yeah, Energimine wins it.
Ronan?
Editor du
Reluctantly, Edwardstone.
Plead the 5th Amendment on this. My job is to ask questions. Yours is to answer them. Let's go to the stairs hurdle then. Paudie, go first this time.
I'll take Flooring Porter.
Ronan?
Yeah, with Classical Dream out, I'd probably just go with Marie's Rock.
There you are, Classical Dream out.
Well, no, sorry, that's not confirmed. I should specify, but not looking likely.
And Barry?
Marie's Rock, no bet.
And then to the Ryanair, the Allaho Free Zone. Ronan Groome.
French Dynamite.
Wow. And they weren't dynamite in the rugby, or if they were, Alan was just too good for them. Paudie?
I'll take a flyer on Janadil.
Barry?
Blue Lord.
So the 3 disagree here. And what about the big one, the Boodle Skull Cup? Paudie?
Noble Yates.
Ronan?
Yeah, I'll just go Gallop in the Champ. It's not a betting race for me, but I think he's the most likely winner.
Barry?
Statler, each way.
Right, well, that's the 5 casts from the panel. Before we move on and just touch on the weekend racing quickly and get a nap and next best from the 3 of you, let's deal with the last week's 5 cast, Barry. Let's sort that out.
Yeah, we have a winner in here. It was the last 2 weeks all compiled into one. So we had 7 in the hat. And the winner
again,
of...
didn't I? Yeah.
Okay. The winner of the £20 free bet, get in touch via the DMs or in the comments below. It's Adam Bramfield. Congratulations, Adam. Get in touch and we'll get you that free bet. Credited to your Boylesports account.
This week's. Well done, Adam. Don't forget, this week's a really special podcast 5 cast prize. All right, on to the weekend. Something for everybody, of course.
Look, the main race, I guess, is the Ascot Chase. Everyone looking towards that. That's going to have a huge billing on the Ryanair. Shishkin taking on Fakir D'Oudaries, probably the rock solid one in there, I'd say. And pick Doherty as well, who seems to be that sort of track suits him well. So it'll be a good race. Out of the 3, I'd say Fakir, you probably have to say, is the most rock solid and can go and win this race again. I will put up a horse at Goran on Saturday, a horse of Paul Nolan's called Back in the Room. Won his maiden hurdle at Goran and ran quite well at Limerick over Christmas. He was 4th there, over 3 miles, coming back to 2.5 miles here. Goran on Saturday. I think he could be a bit of a price, or at least a decent price, I guess. He's only had 4 runs, so quite unexposed, so it could be well handicapped. So watch out for him, Goran.
We will let you go and get your bacon and salami and go off to work or whatever you do on a Friday, and alone with your form book. That is Ronan Groome of the Irish Field, a very welcome and a regular season ticket holder on the Champ.ie podcast. And so we're down at 2. Paudie, been a pleasure having you on the programme this week. Thank you for your time, your wisdom, your insights, and we'll see what more happens if we get another invitation next week, either because we're short or because you tip winners for fun. Let the natives decide which it should be. What about you for this weekend?
Fakir D'Oudaries, I'd say, be hard beat. I think he's probably the nap, and I like one in the 3 o'clock in Ascot, handicap hurl, Supreme Gift. He's had 4 runs over hurls, won 3 of them, would have won 4, and if he ran out one day, it's his first run in a handicap. He gets in here off 125. It doesn't look an overly steep starting point. I think he's around 12 or 14 to 1. He looks a working man's price at that.
I've got a message here from Tommy Coyle. I know he says I'll have last week's again. Harry.
The 4:10 at Ascot, there's a horse running called Ivaldi. Fell when last seen. It actually ran in a handicap behind Grey Dawning and when last seen. Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden has only had 4 starts over hurdles. 3 of those starts obviously have been in Britain. There's a mark of 124. Todd ran a decent race at Ascot and penultimate run on good ground. Obviously, it's good ground again. Finished 2nd on penultimate start. 124. I'd say he could be well treated and nicely weighted there as well. Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden in the 4:10 at Ascot. And I do think Fakir D'Oudaries is going to take quite a bit of stopping, and he'd probably be the nap of the weekend in the Ascot Chase, Mike.
Yeah, well, I'm off to Wincanton for the Kingwell Hurdle. I like to move it, Nappers Hill, and a few others involved in that. There's going to be plenty of interest in that, and there's fun and games everywhere with, of course, the Grand National Trial at Haydock. Significantly this year, the handicapper can take that race into account in finalising the national weights, which are announced on Tuesday. And that concludes the case for the prosecution, my lord. I think is all I can say in conclusion. Big thanks to Paudie Hassett. He's now can add that he's appeared on the glorious Champ.ie podcast to that glittering CV. And thanks to Barry, as always. We're back with another one next week. But get those 5 casts in. And remember, 5 into 1 could mean a trip for you to the Boylesports Irish Grand National. From the Champ.ie team, good luck with your bets. We'll see you soon.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special pair, and it's a hands full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by